a look through the papers. With me in the studio this morning to review them, broadcaster Gemma Fortin and journalist Janelle Aldred. Thank you so much, both of you, for being up so early on a Sunday. It's always good to have you in the studio. Lots to get through today. There's so much news, especially for a Sunday, right?
Yes, and especially for recently.
Yeah, exactly. Let's talk about the front of the Sun. Janelle, do you want to take us through that?
Yeah, there's been
another hack.
Another hack.
A data breach,
and it's the second one that's happened recently. Well, it's happened in Northern Ireland, and so what it is, 30,000 officers have compromised information. So it appears that the company that creates the security cards, access cards, they have access to everyone's vetting, to their levels, their vetting levels of security, name, ID number, police ID number, and that's actually been breached. And so they're trying to find out just how far that information has actually been compromised. But of course, that information in the wrong hands of all of those police officers, 30,000 of them, that in the wrong hands is actually very, 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 very dangerous information. They say that it's not their addresses with that information because they're security pass cards, but still, just to know all of that information, they're potentially undercover officers as well at risk because their real police ID data is on there. So a massive, massive breach for those concerned.
Well, the fact the addresses are not there is probably cold comfort, isn't it? I mean, Jen, what do you think? We had the PSNI data breach, and it seems that it's not the actual police's actions. This is a third, it's an IT supplier. And with the PSNI, it was Freedom of Information Act. It just seems...
It feels like there isn't enough investment. Maybe that's part of there being a lack of investment in public services, because security is of the utmost importance, and it feels a bit like we're sleepwalking into sort of dystopia in a way, because also there was the security breach with UK registered voters that wasn't very widely reported, but that was recent and incredibly worrying. As you say, there was the identities of Northern Ireland police as well. So cybercrime is something that is only going to become increasingly threatening and a worry, and the sort of horrible sort of irony, if you like, of it being the police who are being breached here when it's the police who were cut so badly those years ago by Theresa May and have never really since recovered and don't seem to have the resources to be fighting cybercrime on the levels that we should be able to.
But it's also the outsourcing. And
well, that's the thing, right?
That's the issue. Yeah. Once you start outsourcing, you know, once I tell you, you know, we're at more risk of everyone finding out what I told you. And I think we need to really think about who are these third-party suppliers and what measures do they have in place, because really, to me, something like this should not be outsourced. This should be something that is done
and yet with
in-house.
PSNI, that was not outsourced. It was the Freedom of Information Act. All of the information.
Leaked, so I think it's
not even leaked, just put up online.
Data tech is brilliant. It's enabled us to do so much more, but this is the dark side, and I think they really need to think about who they're using to secure themselves and secure this information, because once it's out there, it's very, very hard to pull it back.
Okay, let's talk about another story that everyone's been talking about for the last couple of hours since it broke. Nadine Dorries, she did say she was going to resign, but it's taken her a while, shall we say. Do you want us to run through this story on the front of the Mail? Gemma, do you want to take it away?
I mean, it's completely extraordinary. She's been totally absent in the job that she's been paid to do as an MP. You know, her
not according to her, if you read her resignation letter.
Apparently she's been very busy. I mean, I think she's mainly been busy sort of doing her TV presenting, sticking up for Boris Johnson, like a sort of estranged cheerleader. And here she is. She's finally resigned, I think 78 days after she said she was going to. So there will be a by-election, which will be fascinating, because I don't think it's clear-cut who might win that one. I think it'll be a big race between Labour and Lib Dem. But also some of the things that she said, I mean, she's so deluded, this woman. She really is, has no self-awareness. The sense of entitlement that she has. She's sort of so furious that she's not in the House of Lords for the rest of her life, like on that gravy train. Sort of, I don't know why she ever thought she deserved to be in there anyway. I'm not sure what she's achieved, apart from being a fangirl. She didn't even know how Channel 4 operated when she was trying to close it down. You know, the woman is a joke. And some of the spite in the letter, which is behind a paywall. So her constituents have to pay to find out that she's finally off ski. And she's saying things about, like, well, Starmer hasn't got any charisma, but actually, you know, nor have you. You wouldn't win the X Factor. And it's like, all right, love, it really is so spiteful, so undignified. Some of the things she levels at Sunak, I agree with. I do think the government are like zombies at the moment, but not the point. It's just extraordinary.
No. I'll just read an excerpt. Bewildered, this is from her resignation letter. Bewildered, we look in vain for the grand political vision for the people of this great country to hold on to. I've read it somewhere that, was it the opposition who wrote this? Who wrote this?
Yeah, well, I mean, it is really interesting, but if you listen to what she says, she doesn't actually say she's been working for her constituents. What she said was, I have caseworkers have been working very hard over time. She doesn't say she has. She never says she works hard.
My team of caseworkers and I have continued to work for my... So she
kind of is, but I think in the end, she's Boris's super fan. She's just never gotten over it. I think she should get over it. He's gone. We've all moved on. She needs to do the same. And I think we'd all like to move on from her as well. So I think the sooner that she can actually, bite the bullet, leave us all alone and leave us out of it, I think that would be better, because I feel like we're all being dragged into her personal soap opera with Rishi Sunak, and it's not fair.
But this by-election is going to be a problem, isn't it?
Yes, it is, absolutely, and she knows that. So every single move that she's done has been designed to cause as much upset for Sunak as possible, who she's still completely furious with, because he was the one that caused Darling Johnson to go.
But I don't think anyone takes her seriously. I don't think anyone with any political nous takes her seriously. No. And although she's, venting, and she's doing all of this venting, I think, if anything, it's just more entertainment for everybody rather than anyone listening to what she's saying. There are some valid points in there, but unfortunately, the messenger kind of dilutes the message that's there.
She's starring in her own novel, isn't she? The novels that she writes. She thinks...
Well, it's almost a novel, this resignation letter, isn't it? It's so long. You can find it free to read, so do have a read if you can. Let's talk about politics, stick with politics. Telegraph, what do Labour say about wealth tax now?
So now they're saying there will be no wealth tax under Labour, and I think this goes to show why any by-election is not a done deal for Labour, because at the moment they seem to be rowing back on a few would-be steady Labour policies that we'd all expect to see. So the Shadow Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, has said they're ruling out higher levies on property, capital gains and top earners. Now, this was one of Keir Starmer's campaign pledges in 2020 when he was running for leader, that this would be done. This is something that she herself spoke about in 2021, about raising extra money for the NHS, and this was how it would be done on people whose wealth was their income. And now they're saying that actually this will not be the case. Now, she's rowing back, saying at the time what she was saying was that they needed to raise money, and that seemed like a good way to do it. Well, we still need to raise money, so that probably still seems like a good way to do it for some. And I think for me, this kind of goes into the unsettling feeling that a lot of people are having about Labour now, of what will they be like in power, because it's clear that they're not just going to stick to the things they've been saying for the past 2-3 years. So what does a new Labour look like? Because if you'll say anything to get into power, what will you do to stay there? And that, for me, is the kind of thing that makes me feel unsettled about what's happening.
That's a bit harsh. Do you think that they're saying anything to get into power?
Yes. And I agree with you on that, but it's working. And, the polls reflect that their strategy of being very timid, not saying anything that the largely right-wing media could really leap on, because if they do, they will be attacked. And that's just the way it is at the moment in our media. So it's like softly, 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 softly. And I feel like you're right. I don't know what they will really look like when they come into power, but I hope that if they do, or as and when it looks like they will, that in a way they will be bolder. They will be what the country needs, and they will reform so much which is wrong and invest in what is needed.
I'm not sure. I think it's risk and reward. We're a year out from an election, and I think unless you tell people what you're about, I think there's a lot of people, we've seen this before, where he's not telling us because he's going to do something radical. And when Boris came in, it was radical and not what we needed. So I would prefer to see them take a stronger stance on this is what we do.
Is Keir Starmer radical?
No. But also, isn't it interesting, though, that this has made the front page of the Sunday Telegraph, the biggest Brexit cheerleader, the biggest Boris Johnson sort of fan newspaper, and here they are being largely very positive about what Rachel Reeves has to say. And unfortunately, this is politics, and that is aimed at all those people who are getting rather fed up, with the absolute disaster that we're seeing at the moment, and they might well give their vote to Labour. So it's all strategic. I agree. I hate this sort of run up to the election. It's just going to be exhausting. I wish we could have one on soon.
I still wish you'd appeal a bit more to your base.
Yeah.
I still think there is something to be
there's
said for
nothing
appealing.
out there for anybody
And I
that is
think at the
vaguely
moment,
left.
if you're vaguely left any further from centre, left onwards, I think Labour at the moment are looking a bit rocky to you. And to me, if you're going to overturn the last election, you have to maintain your base as well as winning the new voters. Because if you don't, then you're still in a position where you gain, but you lose. And I think it's
But
whether
if
or
you
not
look
they
at
win
the last
enough.
lot of by-elections, that win for Labour was huge. It was staggering. It was a massive, massive victory. So, and I agree with you, they might be winning on people not wanting to vote for the Tories. And is that good enough? No. But it's working. So unfortunately, I think that's all we're going to see.
I'm still going to put money on a hung parliament next time, that is.
Maybe I would actually like that.
That's
Okay.
And they could reform.
Okay.
You'll never stop us talking.
We're going to carry on. That's the beauty of it. We'll see you in the next hour. You're watching Sky News. Lots more still to come, including on that Met Police hack. We'll be back in a moment.